my last real job was at Mace, the people who built the Shard and the London Eye. We've got some people. I've got some people with wings. It's quite interesting. I'm finding with clients actually, since the pandemic, people are more and more keyed into. You will spend 75% of all of the time you ever spend with your kid by the time they're 12.
Curious Conversations.
So for this episode, I'm joined by somebody who's a business owner, a business development, capture, bid management professional, a trainer, a board member, a coach, advisor, a non-exec, a petrol head, and a lover of Maseratis, or the noise they make. It's probably fair to say. So welcome to Curious Conversations, Jeremy Brim.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you have a passion for creativity, curiosity, and innovation?
Yes. So I guess I've grown up largely in the built environment in winning work and growth related aspects of those sorts of businesses. So I've got 25 years of track record. Grew up in the sort of bid writing, bid management world, but expanded out into capture, as you say, but account leadership, key account management, those sorts of aspects. I was really lucky earlier in my career. In fact, I've been getting some WhatsApp messages this morning actually from my work dad, a guy called Graham Keane, who I grew up working with at Mouchel and then through EC Harris and Arcadis, where we really scaled and ultimately sold EC Harris to Arcadis as part of that journey. And he was just messaging me about buying a Maserati actually from his super yacht in Hong Kong Harbour, because he's done all right.
He's doing better than you are.
Yes, much better. But so these days, so I was very lucky to grow up with that gang, with Graham and a few others who were a bit further on in their career. And as the youngest, I kind of followed along and learnt a great deal about how to scale business to business, and particularly business to government companies, those that need to grow and win work with government organisations, contracting authorities. Yep. And so my last real job was at Mace, the people who built the Shard and the London Eye, which we may come back to in the innovation bit, I guess, where I was responsible for the growth of the construction business or a player in that team in the Tottenham Stadium Battersea Power Station era, doubled the turnover from $1 billion to $2 billion, doing a lot of the stuff that I work with clients on now. But yeah, my dad pulled me to one side in March 2018 and less than politely explained I was killing myself, making other people rich. I'm really good at it. But I should consider my life choices, was the proposition he put to me. And he's not a man to be trifled with, quite a senior, successful dude, long retired now. But and so I think he likes my wife more than he likes me, and would prefer that she stuck around and that I looked after myself. And he was right, because I've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes as a result of my late nights, pizza parties on bids. Yep. You know, we've all been there. So I started my own business, Growth Ignition, in the October 18, sort of with Mace's blessing, left on good terms. And I've had a whale of a time actually working with lots of clients, done a bit with RLB, but lots of the contractors like Morgan Sindall and Wilmot Dixon, etc. Some of the more interesting, innovative bunch like Reds 10, and in other markets in outsourcing IT, professional services, and had a great time doing it, helping those clients. I get called on a lot because of my brand and what I've done, I guess, in the bidding space. But actually the more interesting work I do is further up in the funnel. So we'll talk about capture perhaps, but even all the way up into market research, business plans, funnels, how we really optimize the approach of those businesses to grow with the right types of clients in the right type of work. So we create predictable, sustainable businesses.
Nice.
And it's good fun.
Good. So as you start the podcast, we normally ask our guests to complete a hands-on, hopefully fun activity to show your creative side and some of your imagination, and using play to fuel creativity. So Jeremy, here's some Lego. We'd like you to create something that represents your passion for creativity, curiosity, or innovation.
Wow. Okay, let's give it a go.
Open it up. There you go. You can either tip it out. You can.
What have we got?
It's got all sorts. There are some wheels in there, by the way.
We've got some people. We've got some people with wings. Very good. Right, I'll save that. We'll have that. What else have we got? got a mix of Duplo in here.
We
with
have got a mix of Duplo.
normal Lego.
We've got normal Lego and Duplo.
Triggers triggers me a little bit having the wrong stuff in here. But yeah, let's give it a go. So, what would I say? I think maybe we build a little stage for somebody to do a speech from. Oh, we've got some gantry there for a bit of lighting and stuff. Very good. I'll pretend that's a lectern, I think. There we go. Maybe a bit of shrubbery in the corner.
Nice.
There you go, as you get at those sort of big conference venues, don't you? This is about how do we... Oh, crikey, I've gone and broken the wing off. How do we enable leaders to lead their businesses effectively when it comes to growth, I think. So this guy...
Yeah.
How do we get the businesses to think differently, critically, and think in an innovative way with insight and data to grow their business and really make it fly, hence the wings.
Nice, I like that. What about funny face then?
A funny face. Yeah. Maybe they're a bit of a maverick. Maybe they're a bit of a maniac.
Well,
but yeah, I think that's...
It's the chief exec, so...
Yeah, well, I mean, I've literally just walked here from a client's office, not a million miles away. Well, I've been in the room with an MD, and they can't see where their business is going.
Yeah.
I haven't got data and insight, which is a key thing at the top of funnel. But they're particularly interested. They've got some great clients, but how do they become more creative in that kind of capture phase? How do they get ahead of key opportunities and really get the business to fly and motivate their people? Another key thing is the fight for talent, right?
Yeah.
Which we're going to have for the people in the construction sector in the UK. We're going to have 500,000 people retire out of our market in the next 10 years at least. And they probably won't be replaced, irrespective of what the government say on training. You know, their recent announcement on training, when you look at the detail, it's all about the 1.5 million homes, but we've got hospitals, prisons, schools, everything else to build.
Decarbonisation.
Yeah, big time, yeah. So these businesses are in a fight for talent like never before. And if you don't take your people with you, if you work with clients that aren't great to work with, on work that doesn't stimulate and interest your people and give them opportunities for creativity and innovation, they'll go and get a job somewhere else for more money.
Yeah.
So it's the fight for talent piece is getting further and further up the board agenda for my clients, and how we enable that through key account management, client selection, capture of pursuits is going to be critical in the next decade, I think. Nice. So that's my dude.
Love that. Yeah. So as this podcast called Curious Conversations, I'd like to start a question about curiosity. So how would you define curiosity and why is it important in your field?
So it's critical, really. I very often get the call, will I come and coach presentation teams that are due to give a presentation in a couple of days' time? Or, will I come and coach some people in sales skills? And it's because somebody senior has observed people who are nervous. And very often those wonderfully qualified technical people, lawyers or quantity surveyors or whatever they are, nobody's trained them in this stuff. Nobody's developed them. And they lost, we all, if we're not careful, we all lose the creativity we had as a child. It gets sort of washed away from us over time. And we work in these businesses that are a bit like a matrix. You're just in your lane doing your technical stuff. And so very often these people, when they're pitching or where they're at a networking event and asked to engage with client people, they'll just naturally revert to type and try and blast clients with a standard product or an idea, the way that we would want to do something. This is the way I've always done it. So that, and
that's the right
Mr.
answer.
Client and Mrs. Client, you should buy from us because we're wonderful because we do it this way. When the reason why curiosity and innovation is so critical is that the successful businesses, it's quite easy to run a mediocre business. It's quite easy to drift along, picking up bits of work here and there from clients that we know. But it's also quite easy for those businesses to go bust when they fall in with the wrong clients, particularly the contractors, and because you just drift into stuff, don't realise the risks, win work on price rather than quality, and away you go. Whereas the businesses that predictably and sustainably grow with a decent incline are the ones like Mace that I used to work for that relentlessly focus on client value. How are we going to create value for that client? And you can't do that unless you're curious.
Yeah.
You've got to. Funnily enough, I bumped into an old friend of mine on the train this morning from Milton Keynes. Used to be a partner at EC Harris when I was a lad, and we were reminiscing about one of the senior partners there and how they were really brutal with us in the bidding phase in particular. If you don't know what's on that client's scorecard for their appraisal at the end of the year, there's 5 people going to read your bid. What is important to them for their bonus or their prospects? How are we going to make them look good? And so to understand that and to create propositions that deliver greatest value but also help them on their journey so they then take you with them for the long term. You've got to be curious and ask the questions, and you've got to have empathy and emotional intelligence combined with that curiosity. And that's actually a lot more rare than you would think it is. It's quite easy for it to kind of get kicked out of us over time. Yeah. You get into a bit of a rut of just trying to flog people or nervously put stuff to people that you've done before as the standard round peg when they've got a square hole.
Yeah. Got a big hammer though. You work it in, don't
Yeah. Well, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But they don't create the outcomes for the client that they could, and they don't create the value for their business that they could.
So I suppose it does segue in one of my questions. So obviously you're an expert in longer term capture, as we just talked about, where engaged clients build their trust over time. So how do you keep their attention? Because obviously capture is a 1.5, 2 year process out from eventually getting the tender and then hopefully winning it. So how do you keep their attention and keep them curious in what you are offering them as a solution?
So just for those listening that aren't party to this stuff, because captures actually, there's probably single-digit percentage of businesses even heard of it, let alone operate capture on their key pursuits. So capture management is the development of a single campaign for a single deal with a client. So not overall how you work with a client, that's key account management. We've got a key deal, ideally with a current client, a recompete or the next thing, land and expand. But it's a single campaign to influence that client and shape a proposition that delivers the maximum value for them. And then we're just asking for a share of that value in return. Now, the concept of capture in the funnel was developed probably 25 years ago in the States. It's an American philosophy. So I would say in the world of winning work, the UK is the most mature country in the world in the bidding phase. Mm-hmm. In a straight fight, we'd beat anyone. Yep. Straight fights don't exist, by the way. Yep. But if there was one, we'd beat anyone. Because we are very compliance driven, we like to queue up, we're very good at health and safety, and so we're good at answering questions and meeting scoring criteria. Yep. The capture phase, unusually, the Americans are much better than us. So if you put capture manager as a job title into LinkedIn, it comes back with a massive list of roles around the East Coast of the States, particularly DC. And it's because their market's very cyclical, very predictable. You can see it coming. And the way that American business operates traditionally tended to be much more siloed and much more linear, whereas we're a bit more multifaceted. So it was easier for them to develop a process because you could see the deals coming a mile away, particularly defence stuff, Fed stuff. So you could develop these capture campaigns. So they have people whose job it is, capture managers, to manage that campaign from 1.5 years, 2 years out before any RFP or ITT to influence the client. They take part in the bidding phase, and they even sometimes manage mobilisation or a part of the mobilisation team to get successful delivery. So we in Europe are actually behind the curve on this, but I'm getting more and more pull on it. Many companies in your market are getting up to speed with this stuff. Now, the philosophy on capture that was American developed, some of my competitors were party to that originally. Our professional body for bidding people and its body of knowledge is actually quite strong for capture, but it's been largely written by bid managers, bid writers, as a wish list of stuff they wished had happened before the tender came out.
Okay, yeah.
So it's all designed to end in a competitive bid that you win. That's plan B for me. Plan A is that we take the clients on a journey towards a negotiation, because we create a proposition partnering with them that's so powerful it would be ridiculous for them to give the piece of business to anyone else.
Yeah.
And so how we keep them engaged in that process, there's two key bits missing from the general philosophy out there in the market. Co-solutioning is absolutely critical. So if you can get your humans that would be their humans on the contract in a room with them a year before tender and help them shape a solution that's more valuable, shape their specifications, shape how they're going to deliver it, you can then lead that into the second component that's missing, which is procurement shaping, ideally towards a negotiation. But worst case, we want to help them develop a procurement process, obviously that suits us, but that just derives the greatest value for them. So their specification is on point, it's up to date. It allows for innovation and added value. And we're best placed because we understand it better than anyone else because we've helped them write it. We're much more likely to bid it. So I've become quite aware recently through some interactions on LinkedIn that procurement lawyers hate me saying that. They don't really want their clients, contracting authorities, engaging with people like me and you. But my argument is, they even don't like providing feedback on bids. They don't want their clients to provide much feedback because they're terrified of challenge.
But Procurement Act expects them to do it, doesn't it, though?
It does, yeah. It does. And so it kind of nicely segues. We're going to touch on the opportunities, I guess, here in the UK with that. Because I'm intrigued. There's a bit of a conversation to be had about, in fact, I'm recording a podcast with a procurement lawyer tomorrow on this very subject of how it's landed, how it's spun up, the opportunity. So just for listeners, the post-Brexit, we were still operating on the EU's procurement regulations until February this year, end of Feb 25, where our new UK Procurement Act and its ecosystem came into force. So the way that UK public sector organisations procure things should be better and more suited to us in the UK. And there's lots of good things, sensible things that the previous government and this government have baked into that. Are they really going to do it, though? The contracting authorities? Will it really make a difference? I don't know.
It will only make a difference if people challenge it. And they'll do it if people challenge it, I think. But
so there's lots of provision in there for them to collaborate better with us. There's lots of provision in there for development of innovation and IP with the market. But it is at the same time as budgets will be thinner than they've ever been. They'll be under pressure. They're already taking money off disabled people. So what the spending review will be like in June or whenever will be interesting, and the behaviours that drive. But they're terrified of challenge. And so it will be interesting to see how procurement people and public bodies steer their way through that. So capture is actually the advice that the same procurement lawyer, Rebecca Rees from Trowers and Hamlin, gave me before the Act went live, maybe a year ago now, actually, on an episode we recorded, was that capture is actually part of the solution, because we need to engage with these clients and help them understand the Act and go on the journey with them. So it's a good thing.
So one of the things you touched on is that the new Procurement Act has a greater emphasis around innovation in particular, and I think it is called out as a thing that's now changed from the old process. So how do you think we as consultants or contractors can leverage that to make us more competitive? Or have you seen ways that people can use innovation to present it back through that capture process that makes them more innovative?
Yeah, so we're going through an interesting phase. So that the Procurement Act should provide us, first of all, with more data and insights on pipeline. It's one of the key things. It's been a perennial problem for as long as I've been in this game. You couldn't see what was coming. But it should give us that greater visibility and therefore certainty, so our businesses can invest in innovation and people and training, because that's the bit that our boards need, that they're starved of, is that forward insight into where the world's going to go, and then that gives them confidence they can invest, combined with your win rate and those sorts of things. So for me, in concert with that data, hopefully, but where I'm working with the board, I'm doing more and more work with more and more senior people at the moment. We've had a really good couple of years where I'm in the boardroom with some pretty big businesses, billion plus turnover businesses. And the same problems come around, that there've been bidding engines, just bidding everything that comes through frameworks, and wondering why some of it goes a bit wonky. And I saw an article in Building Magazine actually last week that upset me a bit. It was with the finance director of Osborne, who went bust last year. And it was the perennial contractor stuff of, government needs to give us more money, give us 8%. But actually earlier in the article, he said out loud what the real problem was that they had 3 loss-making jobs, and they were loss-making because they were outside their sweet spot, outside their geography or turf, different level of complexity, different scale, different supply chain. And guess what? They made a thumping loss, and it actually brought the business down. So if you look at that the other way, I'm trying to help these businesses steer towards a funnel of clients and opportunities that, first of all, suit their business. So do some market research at the top of the funnel. Where's the money going to be with who? And then wash that through a perfect client lens. So if you look back for the last 5 years, who have we made money with, but who have our people enjoyed working with? Because you're in a fight for talent, so you need to work with clients that they'll enjoy working with as well as make money. Levels of client satisfaction, scale of opportunity off into the future. So run it through that lens, run it through a project or contract or commission sweet spot. We're good at this stuff in this geography of this size, complexity. That'll give you a dream list of maybe 100 opportunities and clients. And then you can focus all of your marketing activity on that list, all of your messaging, all your thinking. You should be able to analyse the list and come up with who are your key clients and prospects and build a plan around perhaps the top 5 of those. Be able to pick your top 5 pursuits out of that list, the ones that are critical to platform opportunities off into the future. Because you can't boil the ocean with this stuff. You've got to start somewhere. I always say adoption is far more important than flair or detail. Have a one side of A3, not of 50 pages of CAN plan. Get some actions, get it rolling, and you'll be much more successful. Because we won't, in the fight for talent moving forwards, you won't be able to operate a successful business just on receive, bidding everything that comes through with a fairly low win rate, because you'll lose your people, because they'll end up working on stuff with clients that they don't like, on work that they don't like, that's riskier, that's unpleasant. Whereas we need to find the clients. I'm on my 18th client in a row where they're making 80% of their margin with 20% of their clients. A little bit more with the next batch, and then they have a massive long tail of basically loss-making clients, break-even or loss-making clients. I have I can double your margin thing by cutting the tail and focusing on these, but it's that top of funnel, who should we be working with on what? Key account management, pick a top 3 to 5, capture in year 1, pick a top 3 to 5. And that rocket ships your business. But what's becoming more and more important, it's not just about money, it's about people, finding clients that your people like to enjoy with, where there's a good challenge.
So empowering their curiosity.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to work with people that you like,
Yep.
on work that's exciting and interesting, that you care about.
Yeah.
No one, these days, it's quite interesting. I'm finding with clients, actually, since the pandemic, people are more and more keyed into who they're going to be working with on what.
Yeah.
And they will make decisions, not just about people's capacity, but also the relationship and their values. And so, but that curiosity bit is really important. They need to feel like there's development opportunity in that work. Otherwise, they'll go and get a job somewhere else.
Yeah. So, I suppose, one thing you touched on earlier is about you started your business, Growth Ignition, 2018.
Yes, October 18, yeah.
2018. So how, I suppose it'd be interesting for our listeners and viewers to understand, how do you effectively take what was effectively you and your product and then continuously be creative, be curious, innovate as well? So obviously you have to innovate to make sure you're relevant to your market as well. Because obviously what you do now was probably very different to what you did in 2018,
yes.
I assume.
Yeah, no, it is. But it's different for two competing reasons all the time. So one competing reason is client voice. What do clients want?
Yeah.
And particularly what's keeping them up at night. So there's no point me pushing propositions that people don't want or care about. So, and that's quite interesting at the moment. I'm about to go out actually with a bit of a client survey. You'll get one on literally that question. What are you, in the world of growing your business, what are you worried about? Because I think it might be a bit different to what it was a year ago.
Yeah.
So that's one driver. But the other driver, as you know, because we're friends, is that the most important thing is about family. So my business is unashamedly a lifestyle business. My wife and I have been on a financial freedom journey for more than 10 years. I guess a lot of people would equate that to retirement or early retirement, but it's not quite about that because we're taking the scenic route. It's more about spending time with our child. So we have a 3-year-old, Juno. She starts school in September. You will spend 75% of all of the time you ever spend with your kid by the time they're 12, and you'll spend 90% of all of it by the time they're 18. So we have shaped businesses. My wife owns a marketing agency. I've got Growth Ignition. I've got the Bid Toolkit. I've got Destination Freedom that teaches people about money and financial freedom planning. I might have used to own a Maserati dealership. It was everything that we do is geared around creating the right balance of life to spend time with Juno and create an asset base for our financial future. So that the target was to be financially free or retired by 50. The world's been against us a bit. We weren't going to have kids, and then we did. Then we changed our mind, and so that's changed the plan a bit. We're taking a bit more of a scenic route.
So how, on that, so obviously there are sliding door moments all the way through. You had pandemic as well.
Yeah, which is a big bump.
How did you, I suppose, think more creatively, innovate to go, well, actually, the path I'm on now is very different to the path I need to take, because obviously we've now got, we're going to have Juno, or we're going to have a child, we're going to call it Juno.
Yes. So we had an update on. I had a board meeting. Me and my wife around the kitchen table on Tuesday to look at our objectives for the next 12 months, because I think it's going to be a bit bumpy.
Yeah.
So what we're doing across our businesses, what we tune up, what we tune down. And agenda item number 1 was to revisit our kind of vision board for our life. So we had a T map. For anyone who used to work at EC Harris, we used to have loads of T maps, which has got a time horizon of 5, 10 and 20 years time. And we have a segment that's about work, and we have a segment that's about our family life, and then we have a segment that's about well-being. And so it's got Post-it notes all over it. We did the exercise 9 months ago, and then that spurred us on to move house to Leamington Spa from Cambridgeshire, because we needed to look at schools and lifestyle and being in the right place for work and all of that kind of stuff. And so, but basically that is our roadmap of how we want our life to look and feel through those 3 different strands on those time horizons. And that then becomes our North Star in how we operate both professionally and personally as a family, what our goals are. So we have that North Star that we will never stop working, but we want to be in a position where we can do more with charities in the third sector, and where we can look after our well-being and things like that.
Have you looked back over your previous North Stars to see how much it's changed?
Yes. And that was what we were doing on Tuesday, actually, because it's changed even in the 9 months since we did it last time. Not wildly, and we were also ticking off the things that we've done or achieved. So we checked that the house that we've bought, we moved 6 weeks ago, does all of the things that we thought it was going to do. But yeah, so there has been some movement. Obviously, the big movement, the original origin story was we went on our honeymoon in 2013 and realised that we'd got into a load of debt putting on a wedding for everyone else.
Classic, yep.
And so we had a slight snafu. We double counted some budget, and I ended up having to get a loan out on the 3 days before our wedding to pay for a bunch of stuff. So on the honeymoon, we sort of thought, right, this needs to be an inflection point. This needs to be a new start. We need to get out of debt and, start on a path towards being at least grown-ups about this stuff. But we didn't call it financial freedom then. But so we had a bit of a plan to how to pay off our debts, how to get a bit of bunts behind us so we didn't get into debt again, and then build from there. And subsequently we built that North Star kind of thinking. And then that has informed every key decision that we make. So, I had a meeting with a friend of mine who's a business owner the other week who's got young children. And I have a bracelet on my wrist that says Daddy on it, that my daughter gave me. And people will notice if I'm in a meeting and there are decisions to be made that impact my and my family's life and business, I touch it and do that little click. And I was saying to my friend Richard that you need the same. Every decision you make around the business will impact your life positively or negatively. Is it the right thing for our kids? And does it align with our vision? And if the vision needs to change, then so be it. We'll have the conversation. But so that's.
So does it allow you to be? One of the things that's been we've touched on throughout the podcast series is around failing safe, and obviously you have to be curious to look for new opportunities like financial freedom or being part owner of a Maserati dealer type thing. But do you effectively have a 90% or 80% of your North Star is here, and actually we have a curiosity box, creativity box?
Yeah, well, it's all about alignment for me. So we run our businesses obviously to make money, but we pay ourselves as little as possible to have a reasonable lifestyle, and everything we earn above that we invest. Yeah. But I remember when Jules was pregnant with Juno, we were walking around a park near where we lived, and we kind of said to each other, we don't want to just stuff this in the S&P 500 or whatever. We want to do stuff that we care about. So we considered, do we invest in a nursery, because we were going to put Juno in a nursery anyway, so why pay someone else £1 a month when we could do it? And we care about the environment, so we've invested in carbon offset as a thing. So we sell carbon credits as well. We have a few things going on. And the cars thing was part of that. I'd bought an old banger of a Maserati for 20 grand when I had a really good year. So I spent a small amount of money that we'd made on a bit of a car as a sort of present to myself, which of course turned into a disaster. The engine was out of the car for 25% of the time I owned it. But it meant that I spent a lot of time at the dealer. Yeah. And then we got into a conversation about money stuff. It's actually, could you fund some stock and I'll sell it and we'll share the profits? And it was an 18% net margin business. It's just slightly unfortunate. Most of our clients were Russian, and then Ukraine happened and they all disappeared. Yeah. So we're having a good time until then. But so we only invest in things that we care about, that we're interested in, that we can be active in to a point. We're not passive. There's no such thing as passive income really. But we're not passive. We like to do stuff that we enjoy and we care about.
Yeah.
Is the alignment. So it's about the alignment, the creativity that's aligned.
Yeah, and then a right place, right time with the conversations go actually exploring things like sliding door moment with a failing Maserati type thing. Yeah.
And these things ebb and flow. So the car thing's finished about whenever it kicked off in Ukraine a while ago now. But other things come around. Yeah. You sort of ebb and flow with it, but we say no to a lot more things than we say yes to. Yeah. Because it's got to be aligned with the vision and our values, and also, is it the right thing for Juno?
Yeah. Nice. So one of the reasons we created Curious Conversations around getting gaining inspiration and different perspectives and experiences around the built environment. So if you had a crystal ball, this might be in your North Star, by the way. So if you had a crystal ball for the built environment in the future, how do you think it will look, or how do you think we will interact with it?
So it's a massive question, that
I know,
one.
yeah,
When I
that's
saw
right.
you pose it, I was like, oh man, that's huge. So, and this is the bit where I really annoy transport planners and those sorts of people. So the reality is most of the building stock that will be standing in 50 and 100 years' time already exists. We can try and build a
Yep.
1.5 million homes, and that's fine, but most of it's already standing. And we don't actually interact with buildings wildly different to what we did 100 years ago. Obviously, it is an interesting time with AI and automation, and that will change things. I think we've had fits and starts around AR and visualization and stuff. So perhaps, if you go back and watch films that were stargazing into this point now, it's quite funny because some of them have got people sort of at home with goggles on, having a meeting with
Flying
people around
cars.
the table and flying cars and whatnot. So some of it happens, some of it won't. But so I think it's going to, I don't think it's so much about the buildings and the building fabric. Obviously there is decarb and intelligent buildings and all of that sort of stuff that moves on, not as fast as we'd like probably. I think it's more about technology and then transport, and particularly autonomous transport. So it's the example I used to use was, with HS2, if unfortunately it would have been a conversation you'd have had with Elon, but perhaps you wouldn't these days, bless him.
He's going back into
Tesla is going to be a bit of a better boy, but dear me. Anyway, but let's say before he went off, doing what he's been doing, if you'd have asked him, how do you transport X number of people from Manchester to London, a train that's based on technology from the 1950s or 60s wouldn't probably have been the answer. It'd have been Hyperloop or whatever. And it takes a long time to build infrastructure like that. It's not going to be ready for ages. And actually, autonomous vehicles are already legal in the UK. I think it was Feb last year, or even 23, I can't remember. So it's not beyond the wit of man that by the time HS2 opens, its disruptor is already on the road. You could have, whether it's a Tesla or another sort of vehicle, a vehicle turn up at your house, an Uber that's driverless, and you say, I'd like to go to wherever, however far away it is, and it transports you there. And nobody owns a vehicle anymore. And maybe that's far-fetched, but we don't know at this point. The problem we have is that people like transport planners, and particularly investors, can only invest in investable things. And investable things need benchmarking. It needs to have happened already. It's quite difficult to invest in completely new technology, and it's why Hyperloop has struggled and things like that. Because are you going to bet the house on something that's fundamentally untested? Probably not.
Hence why you need an investor like Elon Musk to come along and disrupt
it.
like he did with Tesla type thing.
Yeah.
And has done with the spaceship stuff.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But that, it doesn't happen often.
Not that many people around there who've got that much money.
No, and think that big. So I think that's the challenge in concert with what's going on with AI and automation in particular, and how we will work in the future. I mean, there is always the interaction, of course. Like through the pandemic, everyone's working from home. Well, no, they're not, because there's loads of people that work in factories and stuff where you have to be present,
Or hospitals,
or whatever it is. So the fact that an AI machine can do a bunch of quants for a QS rather than employing a grad, yes, there's an impact, but there's lots of other people that doesn't impact. MMC should impact the amount of people we need on site to build building projects. But it's not really flying, is it? In terms of...
So they need those people to be in the factories instead?
Maybe, probably. So generally, I think we're facing Industry 4.0, the next industrial revolution, and that will have an impact on how we live and how we interact with housing and with places of work. But industrial revolutions net, everyone sort of worries that everyone's going to lose their job. It doesn't necessarily pan out like that, or it hasn't traditionally. When we invented tractors for the fields, we used to have hundreds of workers in the fields, but then we invented factories and they went and worked in there. And so we need to get our head around the governments of the world do need to do a better job in terms of policy on upskilling the world for automation and AI and trying to get ahead of it, as difficult as that is. If you watch Obama's leaving speech from way back when, he was challenging the leaders of the world to get on with it because it will be disruptive. And I don't think we've anywhere near cracked that. So that's still the right ask. But I think for our kids, we all have a responsibility to try and figure out where it's going to go. So, like I say, I think it's more about how we transport ourselves between buildings and how we work and interact, rather than so much the buildings themselves. I don't think we're going to be living in foil tents or anything.
Shame.
Yeah, but it's how we interact in between is going to be the interesting bit, and how work works.
Yeah, brilliant. So, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about some of the exciting projects you're currently working on?
Oh, well, yeah, because this is the thing. I can't name clients anymore because I've been a bit provocative on the old LinkedIn, got in trouble. So what are we up to that's exciting? So we're doing our usual work with Department for Business and Trade. I do some lectures as part of their Export Academy that anyone can sign up to. We're just we're halfway through our latest free business growth challenge that anyone can sign up for. So depending on when this goes out, you'll be able to sign up for those. And we need to reinvent that, I think, freshen it up for next time around. So next time around will maybe be October time. So people can catch us in that. I have this whole program around double your margin, a video going out every Wednesday on LinkedIn about that funnel and the key building blocks of how to optimize your business around its growth. And so that's a campaign that's kind of going to endure, because I think I need to do the client voice stuff and health check whether it does resonate. But certainly lots of the conversations I'm having with MDs, chief execs, boards, it does, because they're not doing it and they can't see it. And it's going to, in the next 12 months, it's actually pretty critical that people get a grip on their pipeline and which way things are going to go, and refresh that through the spending review, etc. So I'm excited about helping a lot of clients build their funnels and understand that and steer in the right directions, and create workplaces that are focused on client value and that are exciting, and that people enjoy working in. So that's really cool. And then the usual day-to-day stuff of, I love spending time with bidding people, helping them figure out how to write better bids and all of that kind of stuff at the end of the funnel, and developing our youngsters, because it's important. Lots of people in bidding, where I grew up, are treated like an admin function. They're death by 1,000 cuts, bidding everything. And it's important, I think, that we create a better environment for them, that we continue the journey to it being a recognised discipline, because there's no one at college or university today thinking I'll be a bid writer. They've never heard of it. So, there's lots of work to do to attract and retain the best people into winning work roles, and how we make that exciting for them.
Cool. So, as a thank you, we'd like to make a donation to a charity of your choice. So do you want to tell us who that charity is and why you've chosen them, please?
Yes, so it's an old thing from where I used to live in St. It's in Cambridgeshire. It's a charity. They used to be called the Property Angels Foundation. I think it's just Angels Foundation now. And so they work with women who have been abused or displaced in abusive relationships, those sorts of things. And so we've been a key funder of theirs. I helped set up the charity in the first place. Unfortunately, I've not been able to give them the time. I've had to prioritise time with Juno. I've not been able to continue on the board, but we bung them some cash, and I get the odd phone call from Caroline, who runs it. But it's been a couple of years ago helping them set it up. It was quite a harrowing journey, actually, because they'd send me some messages they'd received and samples of some of the challenges they were facing. Because if you're particularly a woman, particularly with a small child that has to leave an abusive relationship, you get the modern equivalent of a council house given to you, hopefully fairly quickly, but not always. There's nothing in it. So where on very little money, when you've literally left with perhaps a duffel bag and you've got a baby, where do you get carpets from and furniture and all that sort of stuff? So they do some wonderful work in supporting people with that, and they work with local businesses, furniture people, carpet fitters, etc., to make some of that happen. Brilliant. And so some money to them would be much appreciated. It's a great cause.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. So thanks for your great insights today, and actually understanding around creativity, how you've grown your business, how businesses can grow their own businesses through innovation, through creativity, through curiosity, I suppose, and driving that to make sure that people are interested in actually staying in the industry, making sure projects they can allow their curiosity to grow through interesting clients, interesting projects and stuff. So that's been really good, and hopefully motivating for some of our listeners as well. So I'd like to draw us to conclusion now. So to our listeners and our viewers, hope you stay curious, stay creative, and hope to see you on the next edition of Curious Conversations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Curious Conversations.